how my leadership style is like a school library. So I'm going to begin by talking about my definition, because the definition I have, I use it to apply it to being a school librarian and sharing with the students, but also able to using my core values of service and team building. So I put leadership as changing and motivating through service and team building while working on a shared vision. Being open-minded when sharing ideas and dealing with difficulties can empower oneself and others. So I wanted to begin briefly talking about Melville Dewey. Melville Dewey was the inventor of the Dewey Decimal System in 1876. He was only a student at a university working there part-time when he noticed that the cataloging was horrible, so he took it upon himself to do something. Needless to say, he ended up having a new cataloging organizational tool that future librarians can use. And I also wanted to include that he is also a leader for equality, because during the late 1800s, many women did not go to school, and he felt that women should also be educated just as the men. So then I go into the first thing of my leadership, which I believe is service and librarian, which I believe are connected, because they both help each other grow, and they have the same qualities of understanding the diverse people and culture that they encounter. And when I was in Lead 315, we had to come up with a credo for our own organization. And a credo, we just needed to write about something that I would want to impose upon everyone that comes into the library, some type of behavior. So I used service, and I was able to come up with a whole bunch of things that I can do to implement to make people feel accepted. But I also wanted to come across leadership and authority and describe the differences between librarianship. Because leadership is to help others grow instead of telling them what to do. They're able to explore on their own. Whereas authority refers to someone with power and giving instruction and having the right to exercise that power. So I move on to books and empowerment, because I do believe with words that we can empower ourselves. And when I was in 385, we talked about Comey's. And Comey's explained how the environment helps when it comes to empowering individuals. If you're in an environment that's calm and that you're able to respect each other and value each other's opinion, then you're going to be able to work cohesively. But if that environment is upset by something, an individual, atmosphere, that can mess up the team dynamic. So, and that's what I was able to learn, because with 385, we had to come up with team development. And I do want to describe the difference between leadership and leaders when I think it comes to empowerment. It describes that to lead, it's about your mindset and the attitudes and values that go with that. And leadership can always be taught, whereas leaders, they embody the traits of leadership, and they are made, as opposed to leaderships where it's taught. Leaders can be made. And then I go into seating area and collaboration. As you know, collaborating is best done when you are in a circle. And we spoke about leadership wheel in this class. And one of the things that I ended up using was that when I did story time at school. I had the kids go into a circle when I do story time. That way, everybody is equal to one another. All our opinions are equal. No one is better as one another. We're all peers. And then that went over to my Lead 385 class, because we had to do a service learning project. So I ended up doing collective leadership, and I wanted to implement some type of style where adults can learn it and children, but I wanted relatable to both of them. So I used the Justice League, DC Comics Justice League, to describe collective leadership to both adolescents and adult students. And again, with leadership and management, I do want to talk about that difference. The difference between lead when it comes to collaborating is that you have a vision. Leadership is that you have a vision and you're inspirational, and you have those communicating skills to be able to come and with that vision. But when it comes to management, that's more the ability to execute the vision and direct people. So for that one, and then moving on to the next part is circulating and dealing with conflict, because as you know, when you go to the circulation desk, there's always going to be conflict, books missing, everything like that. But when it came to the kids, I knew that 7 steps of fair conflict resolution that I learned in Lead 101 Introduction, it talked about the skills like making room, making time for people, communicating well with one another, having empathy for others. And those are skills that I knew that young students can implement. So with that, I was able to do a skit on conflict, and I was able to talk about the rift between the conflict in the Iliad skit. And then I was able to talk about the resolutions that we could do if we were to change that. And I thought it was really cute because we did it at a puppet show, and I wanted to incorporate that into children's learning as well. Which also leads to what could I have done differently? Because dealing with conflict, it's difficult for everyone. And everyone has their own conflict. I had my own this semester. And as I'm sure a lot of you feel that you want to do it on your own because it's yours. But in leadership, you learn that it's okay to ask other people. And that's what we're here for, because we're here for one another. And then with the leadership and outcomes of this, I put that leadership is involving about steps to being proactive, as opposed to like the outcomes and consequences can be like things that we look to have trust with everybody, and we're wanting to be liked by the group or being accepted. So those are my differences between leadership and outcome. And then I go to makerspace and vision, because the makerspace is basically an area to explore and create in a library for students. And I believe these two are very similar because it has something to do with something that is different beyond them. It's that vision and how to get there. And you want to see how far you can go and what you can do to make that vision come true. And you're learning new things and ways and functions to get there. So I was able to implement all of those reasons into why vision and makerspace are very similar. And then I also put that Vaughn also spoke of identifying and nurturing that vision. If you hold on to that and are able to share that with others that have the same, I'll say respect for the vision that you see, then by all means, it's all going to be done appropriately. But if you can't nurture that vision, there's going to be people feeling left out, and then nothing will be accomplished properly. And then that leads to my final goals, because I want to be able to provide students in school a more effective way to providing leadership. So that's a big goal. I want to do that. And then another goal is I would like to be able to implement professional development to teachers and faculty. So that's my presentation on leadership.